Inside a courtroom or a high-stakes negotiation, expert persuasion functions as structural engineering. To understand how the best advocates win, we must define law as a set of formal rules that carry the coercive sanction of the state. The legal system operates as a machine built to allocate responsibility and manage the immense complexity of modern societal relationships. Masterful advocates rely on a precise, critical method of thinking. We are going to deconstruct the analytical engine used by the world's best lawyers and demonstrate how to build it for yourself. It layers raw logic, strict procedural rules, and textual interpretation into a unified framework. This provides significant leverage, even with disadvantaged facts. Analysis and synthesis form the foundational bedrock of all legal and contractual reasoning. Lawyers break every prohibition or requirement into a strict equation. Every rule takes the form of an if-then statement. The analysis phase separates a claim into its necessary discrete conditions, the if variables. In a murder case, these variables are intent, causation, and death. The synthesis phase matches the raw facts to these exact geometric conditions. When each condition is met, it triggers the outcome, the then. This logic is ruthless. If even a single element fails to be satisfied, the entire claim collapses. Every law, regulation, and corporate contract in existence operates on this exact iterative mechanism. Because the outcome is bound to these strict elements, the advocate who determines the definitions of A, B, and C controls the final verdict. Heavy procedural rules protect the logical core. Expert advocates establish the parameters of the argument before they ever address the facts. Framing acts as the outermost perimeter. Characterizing the dispute dictates which set of rules the tribunal will apply. Jurisdiction and standing follow. An opponent's facts are irrelevant if the tribunal lacks the authority to hear them, or if the complainant has no legal right to bring the charge. The final wall is the burden of proof. This is a powerful heuristic mechanism that favors the status quo. The legal system presumes things should remain as they are, unless the party assigned the burden provides evidence that meets the required standard. You gain a systemic advantage by immediately shifting the burden of proof to your opponent. These procedural gates must be cleared before the substantive if-then engine can be activated. Procedural justice often supersedes substantive justice. An advocate can dismantle an opponent's case simply by closing a procedural gate. All texts, whether constitutions, statutes, or corporate contracts, are inherently incomplete. It is impossible for authors to anticipate every future variable, leaving inevitable gaps and ambiguities in the written word. Advocates exploit this incompleteness using a tactical maneuver called extensional pruning. This begins with using a word in its broad, commonly accepted meaning. Then, if challenged, the advocate will radically shrink that definition to evade a specific liability, leaving the action outside the boundary of the rule. This tactic appears at the highest levels of politics and business to maintain plausible deniability by retreating to a hyper-narrow definition of a specific term. In reasoned persuasion, words are elastic boundaries that a skilled advocate stretches or prunes to capture or exclude responsibility. Legal systems and human reasoning rely on consistency to maintain legitimacy. We distill this consistency into the ratio decidendi, the narrowest rule of decision derived from a past case. Advocates use Occam's razor to strip away irrelevant context from a past decision, isolating only the minimum necessary and sufficient indicions. Testing present facts requires a specific epistemological defense. The question, how do you know? Attacking the pedigree and origin of an opponent's information reveals the gaps in their logic. Applying relentless pressure to a single assumption built without knowledge is the loose thread strategy. Exposing and snapping a single weak epistemological assumption will unravel an entire argument. The fully assembled architecture of reasoned persuasion is now visible. Winning an argument requires a systematic evaluation of every single component of this structure. You must prepare points and counterpoints across 4 vectors: substantive facts, procedural rules, interpretive definitions, and historical precedents. This toolkit, while forged in the courtroom, serves any field that values logical rigor. Use this mental model to negotiate corporate contracts, define business responsibilities, and analyze high-stakes environments. Mastery of reasoned persuasion comes from controlling the underlying architecture of the dispute. Securing this architecture establishes the strongest possible position, regardless of how the facts initially appear.